folks. I'm Siddhartham, and welcome along to the Gradlife, the podcast where we talk to folks who've been there and done that in grad school and really get to know what it took them to get to where they are today. On today's episode, I have my wonderful co host Salva talking to somebody we both know from our time in grad school, somebody who has had a very unique experience, who has a PhD in neuroscience, who is now a fitness guru, and so much more. We're going to be listening to Dr. Jessica Ross. So, without further ado, let's listen to what Jessica has to say.
On today's episode, I'm chatting with a very distinguished UC alumni, a friend, and a fitness buddy from afar who just did half a marathon today. Casually half a marathon. And one of the most intelligent females, without any exaggerations, that I encountered during grad school. She holds a PhD in neuroscience, and right now she is a science communicator that moonlights as a personal trainer. And I'm very excited about talking in the details about fitness journey of Jessica Ross today. So let's dive into more details. Without further delay, I hand the mic to Jessica. What's up, Jess?
You're so complimentary towards me. I don't think I am that smart. I think I just project a lot of intelligence.
That's how all awesome people are. They're just too humble. So sorry about last week glitches. But I'm super excited that we're getting this done today. I know we weren't super close friends during grad school, but we did share a lot of laughs and tears. I know in the microscope room over field
experiments. So many feelings.
And I'm really excited to hear the details of your story. First thing first, what year did you graduate? I know, but tell the audience. And what are you doing now in life?
Sure. So I graduated from UC in 2017, and I had gotten recruited to Stanford as a postdoc. So that was a big change, moving to Silicon Valley from Cincinnati, blowing up half my life to move halfway across the country. And then about a year and a half into my postdoc, my advisor, he had been through some personal things, and I really loved working with him. And I totally understand what he was going through, or I don't understand what he was going through, but I understood that he needed to leave Stanford. So he ended up moving the lab to University of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And as much as I loved working with him and the freedom that he gave me on my projects, I couldn't do another big move for academia. I just couldn't do it. There's too much uncertainty in this world. And even though I had been really focused on becoming faculty, I, needed to pursue other things.
Understandable.
So, yeah, I mean, and then it was a nice thing for me, being at Stanford, because there's so much biotech out here. And it took me a while to find a job, but then by the end of my 7-month job search, I had 3 job offers in 1 week, and I chose the most exciting one at the time. So,
was that during COVID, the 7-month?
No, it was before that, actually. So I started working with Turn Biotechnologies, Turn, like turning the wheel. And that was in November 2019. So I am their grant manager and also my role has expanded because we're a small startup, but I started as their grant manager, working mostly remote. And then, a few months later, we know what happened then.
Yeah.
So I mainly have been working on scientific communications, all of the copy for the company, goes through me. And there are a bunch of projects that I now manage, and I'm kind of like a scientific liaison between the business development folks at the company and the scientific staff, because I can, navigate how to communicate with both groups. So that's been really interesting.
That's so awesome. Like that, I bet that was a massive contribution to expanding your skill set versus, yeah, just being in
Just
academia,
doing
just
science.
doing science. Yeah.
Well, it
Awesome.
was interesting because when I was in undergrad, I was actually an English lit major. You probably
Really?
didn't know that about me. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So, I was at a small liberal arts college, and I originally thought I wanted to go into medicine, but uh, I was working in a lab to like build up my CV, and it turned out I liked doing research a hell of a lot more than I liked shadowing doctors at the hospital. And I was doing this and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to dedicate my life to science no matter what. I did all the pre-med classes. I was doing, neuro classes, and I was working in a neuroscience lab. And I was like, no matter what, I am, going to go to grad school. And, I'm at this small liberal arts college. I should really take advantage of this experience. Like, am I going to just continue studying science for um, the bulk of my time for the
Hmm.
next like 10 to 20 years, or, the rest of my life? Or should I take these 4 years or the remaining 3 years to like try majoring in something else that challenges me? And so I, did English literature, which,
Hmm.
a lot of neuroscience programs, like grad programs, were not happy with that choice. But
Right.
I
Right.
think it really helped me in a lot of ways. Like, yes, there are some parts of like biochem and molecular biology that were like a little bit harder for me to understand at first because I didn't have as much background knowledge in those subjects
Mhm.
coming to grad school, but like it wasn't a major hurdle. It wasn't a problem. So,
Gotcha. So what you just said kind of like bleeds in what I was going to ask you. What made you want to join grad school and why is neuroscience? So if I have to guess, the labs that you shadowed at were neurosciencey, right?
yeah, so when I was in undergrad, I was in a research lab for basically the entire 4 years. Um,
Okay.
and my mentor, Susan Messino, is, you know, she was so much to me in that time, like just in terms of how much she cares about her students and takes time in the lab, and like really was integral to my development as a scientist. Um, just made a huge impact on me. I really wanted to follow in her footsteps for sure.
Yeah, it's
Um,
always nice to have like a PI who's also a mentor because
mhm,
mentorship is big. Like it can literally make or break your degree from like personal experience and people around me. So I guess did she help you apply for a PhD or like
for
how?
sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and she like told me about like how the experience would be, and what to think about for the interviews. She knew that I was navigating this space as a first gen college student.
oh wow,
And so, it was no one in my family had been to grad school, period.
yeah,
So for me, it was like a paradigm shifter. Like, my family still doesn't really understand what it entailed, but they know that I worked really hard.
yeah.
Right?
Which I should
Um,
have asked you from the beginning. So where did you grow up and how different is that from UC or like the science and
oh,
but yeah.
geez. Yeah. Well, so I think that kind of ties into why, I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor, right? Because like I didn't have any scientist like role models. I didn't know that there was a whole, you know, uh, career to make out of scientific study of like medical topics. I thought that it was just like you could be a doctor and that was it. That was your option.
Yeah.
Um, like that's what I thought.
That's
So,
how I grew up too in Egypt, Jess. So I'm the first female who gets a PhD, and in Egypt there's this mindset that you're either a doctor or an engineer, like, what's a scientist?
Right,
So a lot of
exactly.
people are like, you're still studying? Are they paying, like, how much they're paying you? Because it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it was a lot to like figure out. Like I'm from the suburbs of Chicago originally, like a very small suburb that was like pretty like very white, very conservative and like, not very diverse at all. And so when I went to college, I learned a lot um, just about interacting with different types of people. And, like, I had a professor for a sociology class that really got me to like figure out, some of these innate biases that we have and like how we approach the world. And, it's insane. It's insane because, like, you can go for so long in your mind and yourself and like your experiences and think that everyone else is like
Is
is
like
going
you
through the same
and
kind of
this
thing,
bubble. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's wild, right? And so it really taught me, I think, just seeing people of different backgrounds and working with people in general. It taught me like to be thankful for like the things that I do have and the opportunities that I have had because of other people, who have worked really hard to get those opportunities, and like as I said, like if I didn't have like my mentor in undergrad, I probably wouldn't have pursued a scientific career. It was just the right timing for me, and like my lab felt like my home
I
in
love
in
it.
one way.
I love it. Yeah, you have to have someone who's willing to like open the door and hold it for you. That's a really critical step. Like I see a lot of talented people as just this piece, like mentorship is missing, and they're just going about, they don't know what to do. They keep going from one job into another, one career into another. That's really poor fit. So I'm glad you had that. I'm glad you broke away and you went to grad school and you said your first gen college. That's awesome. I love it. Um, so now you completed your degree. I know you gave us a brief about like how things went for you after you finished and where you are right now. But would you say that you landed your dream job? Was Stanford the it job for you, or like where are you currently at this point? Is there something more for Jess, or you think you're in the right spot?
Yeah. So when I was coming out of UC, the job at Stanford was my dream job. It was. I mean, I wanted to go into academia. I wanted to be a research professor. I wanted to be competitive. Like, I had, grant funding as a PhD student,
Hmm.
and I had tons of articles because my mentor at UC was just, he was
Oh, I
young and
know. I
passionate
know.
and hammering those papers out. And I was his first trainee for a long time, his only trainee. So like I was doing a lot of work, but it was good. I had a lot of papers, I had a grant, all those kind of things. So that was like, setting me up for success if I was to pursue an academic career. It like looked like it could be something that I could do, right? And that doesn't happen for everybody. But it was
Yeah,
the pedigree was there so far, right? Like the
right.
things that people look for. So,
Yeah, the
um,
papers, the grants, and all that. I always thought you'd end up at Stanford or somewhere because you're so good. Yeah. So,
well, yeah, thank you. So yeah, so and then you go to Stanford or you go to like any Ivy League school for your
mhm,
postdoc, and that like when you come out of an institution like that, like I don't think that Stanford is any more of like a high quality education than anywhere else per
mhm.
se. I just think that the way that it's perceived is very different, right? And so um whether or not it's always deserved is questionable. But it definitely gives people an edge in the hiring process for sure.
Right.
Um, So things were looking really good when I started there, and my research was going well. I had um, two collaborations that I was working on and two major projects, and I really liked what I was doing. But then, as I said, like the lab was moving, and all of a sudden, I wasn't going to be a Stanford postdoc anymore. I was going to be a UNC postdoc, which was still like great, but it was also like, if we were going to a place where I had people, like if we were going to like Northwestern, would have been totally
Yeah.
fine to
Yeah.
go to Northwestern because it would have been like closer to home and it would have been
Right.
somewhere I had people already. Or like if we had gone to like Boston or if we had gone to New York or to Connecticut or anywhere where I had people, I would have been a lot more likely to want to move just because I loved my lab. Um, but I couldn't make another move to another place where I didn't know anybody. It just wasn't going to be good for me.
Right. Right.
So, I think now, like when I think about like my dream job, um, so, I'm in the biotech space now and I really enjoy what I do and I find it intensely um hard sometimes and stressful, but I've learned a lot about business dealings and entrepreneurship and things that I never really cared about before. And one
Right.
of the things that I think I'm taking from that is that I think it would be fun. I think that I would love to start my own kind of company that's more kind of fitness focused, fitness, nutrition, and longevity focused. Like that being the goal,
Love it.
not like body sculpting or anything like or bodybuilding or just
I
fundamentally at its core thinking about longevity and not looking at health metrics like BMI that we know isn't
it's
necessarily true,
great. According to
and
BMI, I'm close to overweight.
right, exactly. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's not a good metric at
Right.
all. And I think, there are plenty of ways for people to be healthy and to have long lives and be overweight and obese. I don't think that's like really anyway. I could hate on that kind of stuff all day, but like my goal is for people to get more invested in their body and not like take it as like a vessel for their brain, to have that kind of spiritual connection with one's body is really meaningful. And I don't know that we as a society appreciate it very much.
No. I absolutely love that. I feel like if someone's gonna do that, it's gonna be you. And I love the fact that you have this scientific background because we see a lot of people now in space that share things that we know is just it's not true or it's not right, and they make it look sciencey and they put they attach a couple of whatever paper or a case study or something.
I mean, you could find papers that will say every single thing. I mean,
Yeah.
all of it is the end of the day, all of these things are individually it's going to be a number of factors that are going to influence how you
Mhm.
respond to things like food and exercise.
Right.
Like from your stress level to how much sleep you're getting to your microbiome, all of these things are going to impact, your relationship with food and exercise.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I love this goal and thank you for sharing. Um, so so now that
No
we're
one
talking about
steal that idea,
fitness,
please. No one steal it.
yes. You never know. Maybe someone will want to collaborate and you start that sooner than you think.
Yeah, I'm looking for investors.
Yeah. So talk to us about your fitness journey. That's the part I've been waiting for. Sid, by the way, like he loves your cardio stuff. He loves all the running, all the posts that you're putting on Instagram is super inspirational. So how did that start? Was that the grad school stress or have you always been athletic? Like talk to us about how you found fitness.
Yeah, so I grew up in a very athletic, very competitive family, where that was like the focus. And so I did some sports when I was growing up, and but then like there was some overload there. Like at some point, I got sick of playing basketball because I played 10 seasons in 5 years because I was
Wow.
playing like a park district season, a school season, an AAU season. Like it was just like ridiculous, right? So I just got burnt out and I couldn't do it anymore. Um, so, and I was a big reader. I like to be a big nerd in a lot of ways. So I kind of gave up on working out and stuff. And by the end of undergrad, I was significantly overweight. And not that that's a value judgment, it's just it was a reflection of me not moving
Right.
enough.
The lifestyle.
I'm
Yeah.
going from, you know, working out a lot because I was like in competitive sports to just not paying attention to that anymore, but still eating like I was playing competitive sports, right?
I see. So all that
And
calories and not the movement to kind of like,
right,
but
right.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, so I started treating my body like it was like a vessel for my brain only. Like it just got me from place to place, and that was all that really mattered.
Yeah.
Um, and At some point, I ended up doing CrossFit with our friend Brittany.
Oh yeah.
Um, I was doing that for a while, but I was not the type to want to compete in that kind of arena. And I always felt, not that anyone was like directly pressuring me, but I always felt like I had to be
Because
more
everybody
competitive.
is doing comps. Everybody's signing up for competitions, and some people had the flexibility of time. Because I used to work out with Brittany, and some people are not in grad school. Like they would be in the gym for 2 hours or like doing all the accessory work. I'm like the same way. Like for the longest time, I treated my body as a vessel for my brain. I was on the other side of the spectrum. Like I was underweight, but the same deal. So I hear you. It takes a lot to compete, and you feel the peer pressure, especially at CrossFit gyms.
Yes. Yeah. And it wasn't like, and again, it wasn't like there's any like anyone who was really pushing it on me. It was just the fact that it was so um ubiquitous and like you saw everyone like working so hard and like I just wasn't on that level back then. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like now if I tried it again, I would be more like,
You'll
oh yeah,
kill it,
let's do this. But
girl. You'll kill
like
it.
but like back in the day, like I had other things on my mind, my science was way more important to me at that time and like I was working way too much to like put that energy into that kind of routine.
Mm-hmm.
So I eventually left the gym and, I did a couple of other things while I was at UC. Like um, when we had this thing where we couldn't, or at least in my program, I don't know if it was true for your program too, but once we passed quals, we became like half-time students. So then we lost the free gym access. So
I
like we couldn't just go to the
oh
UC gym.
really?
Yeah.
I did not know
It
that.
wasn't free anymore. Like you couldn't just go for free. So at one point I took a credit of ballet at the CCM
Okay, how
because
did that
then I
go?
could do fitness for free. Oh, I did
Right.
it. I actually did it for 2 semesters.
Oh, that.
It was fantastic. But it was only because I couldn't do the gym for free
Right.
and broke grad students. So um, yeah, but then I just, got more in, I was not doing workouts very much anymore. I was like drinking more and like just stressing out about leaving UC and all that stuff. So, I get to my postdoc and I'm severely overweight again and like just not doing well like mentally, like in a place to really handle like a lot of stress. I was having a lot of problems with my ADHD. Um, And my therapist was like, you should really try working out again. It seems like it's done a lot for you in the past. Like, why don't you do something? And I was like, I don't know of anything here that I want to do. Like, I don't like any
Mhm.
people here. Like, everyone is so like it was California. No one was like smoking or
Yeah.
everyone was fit, you know, and I just
Right.
felt like I was like this chubby Midwestern girl who like wasn't gonna fit anywhere. And like I'm serious. Like I just felt that way. And one of my friends told me to try Orange Theory, and I was like, no, that sounds really dumb. I'm not gonna like it. And then I go and I fall in love with it after one class. Um, and so I was there for 2 years prior to the great interrupter of 2020.
Of course.
But in those 2 years, like I ended up winning $500 at one point because I lost weight for a challenge. Um, and the only reason I lost the weight was because I was like, I want to win that $500. That was
You
like
did.
the only
I saw you with
motivator.
like that huge check picture on Instagram. Love it. Yeah.
Giant check.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I think Orange Theory is, I've never tried it. I have people who said, like, who were also the peer pressure for me to try it. I'm a CrossFit girl, you know that. And I'm like, no, I'm doing the same thing. I mean, but maybe one day I try it, but I liked how they motivate people, all those challenges. Like, this is how you get people into fitness. This is one way to motivate people. So I really
Yes.
love what they're doing.
I think Orange Theory is nice because it makes fitness a lot more accessible for everybody. Like old, young, everybody. Like
Yeah.
you can say that like everything at like CrossFit gyms can be modified, but like at
But
the end
is
of the
it
day, if
really?
everything is modified, then is it really CrossFit
Is it
anymore?
really? Yeah. Right.
But like at Orange Theory, um, the workouts are all accessible. There are some things where they'll provide options, but they're all like small options. Like if you can't do a push-up, go on your knees. So it's not like, I don't know. It's just like everyone can do these workouts.
Right.
Um, like the biggest hurdle I think for a lot of people is the treadmill, but like once they realize that Orange Theory is really good for power walkers, I started as a power walker at Orange Theory, and
Right.
like if I hadn't, like, do you
Then
think
here
I'd be
you are
running a half
running a
marathon?
marathon every other day.
And
That's
and
awesome.
power walking is hard. It is harder than you think it is because I did a power walking workout on Tuesday this week, and like I hadn't done it in a really long time, and
Hmm.
like you crank up the incline, right? So like
Right.
every time you're on the you're you've designated yourself as a power walker, then they make you like play around with the incline a lot. And so like I'm doing all out to 15% incline, which is like, still walking, but like,
Right. But it's up. Yeah. It's tough.
yeah.
Um,
So I mean, it was good. And the rower, they do rowing too, and that's a great equalizer.
right.
For me, I think the thing that really hooked me at Orange Theory was the rower.
I love rowing. I have the disadvantage of being short. So, but it's more of a technique thing. Like if you know how to row right, and remind you that I've been like 3 years, I've been doing CrossFit for a while, I've been rowing for a while, but 2 of those years I was pregnant. So I have the frog legs, like sometimes
Yeah.
like yeah, I did that for the longest time after I had my kids because my body thinks I'm pregnant. There's a belly that my knees keep coming out, but it's really once you get the technique, um, it's just, yeah, there's the cardio component, but it's all technique. I love rowing.
Yes, for sure.
Well, I'm glad you found something that works for you because that's fitness too. Like a lot of people think, they try Zumba or CrossFit and they failed at fitness. But I always tell people find something that works for you because you have to be consistent to see results. Whatever that thing is, there's nothing that's, whatever works for you, for Jess or for Selwa. So I'm glad you find, you know, that one thing that worked for you and your results, your transformation are beyond amazing. So, all right, Jess. So moving on, this is one of my favorite questions. What was your motto during grad school? Do you have a certain motto, like a certain like quote, inspirational quote, something you kept telling yourself during the struggle and the darkness of grad school?
Oh my gosh. Well, I didn't mention this before, but I did actually have a little bit of a hiccup on my grad school experience because I went to a different institution in Ohio first before I went to University of Cincinnati. I was admitted to a different neuroscience graduate program, and I was there for a year and a half, and they treated me like hot garbage. So, um, yeah, and when I was thinking about what to do when I had to withdraw from that program, I was like thinking about becoming a research technician for like a year or two to like try and get my brain in order and everything to like handle grad school, right? Because like obviously if they treated me badly, that meant that there was something wrong with me that needed to be fixed, right?
Yes.
So I went to I talked to some folks at Children's at Cincy Children's who told me, you know, that they weren't hiring technicians, but with my background, I should really apply to the neuro program. I was like, are you sure? Like, I don't think that's going to work. Like, you know, do you know of any other work opportunities rather than applying to the program? And they were like, why don't you just try? Just try. And so I did. Um, I applied, did really well at the interview, and then I wasn't hearing back. And it's because someone at the old institution called someone at UC and, you know, muddied the waters for me.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a pretty important
Crazy
person
how
at
people go
the
that
first
far. I
place.
mean,
Yeah. So
yeah.
basically, for grad school, I swear I'm answering your question. But basically, my motto for grad school was prove them wrong,
And you
you know?
did. Look at you, you did. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that because that's a common issue in grad school, like where you meet people who make you feel worthless. And that on top of experiments that don't work, that on top of the rejected paper, by the end of the day, you're worthless. And that's when
Right.
people develop the bad habits, like, bad relationship with drinking, for instance. Or, like in my case, I was in a very toxic, emotionally abusive relationship. And it's just, I kept going back to it because I'm worthless. Something is wrong with me.
Right.
So if
Exactly.
any of our listeners, like you guys, it will happen and you're worthy. Don't doubt your worth to your job or your experiments or even family or anything because once that one thing is gone, you're not worthy. So thank you. Yeah, and I love that you proved them wrong and keep proving them wrong. I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. What was your biggest achievement in grad school and your biggest regret?
Oh God, my biggest regret. Well, definitely my biggest achievement was when I was honored with the Presidential Medal of Graduate Student Excellence by UC, and that was like the first year that they handed out that award.
They had a big
Um,
poster of you in the lab, I remember.
yeah, it's at my mom's house now. She still has it. She's like, I can't throw this
Did she put
away.
it on the fridge?
It's giant. It's giant. Um, yeah, so I was like really shocked to win because like I was just doing what I thought was necessary. You know, I didn't do it because I like wanted um, anything out of it, right? I didn't expect anything like that, but um, yeah, like I just talked about my experiences being like a stats TA and tutoring people. Um, I was on a bunch of committees with the HSGA and serving on faculty committees to like advocate for grad students because, as you know, I'm a very loud and opinionated person.
Which I love. I absolutely love.
Like the president of the HSGA like asked me personally to like consider doing this role because he knew that I wouldn't have a problem addressing these
Right.
things,
Speaking
right?
up. Hmm. Love it.
So, yeah, so I did that just because I was asked to, and like it was about stuff that I cared about and stuff that I saw my peers care about, and so I wanted to make sure that everyone was getting treated the way that they should be, right? So I did a bunch of advocacy with that. I was like, killing it in the lab with papers, making it rain.
Make it rain.
I don't know now.
You definitely was
Uh,
making it first. All right. Well, what's your, if there's one thing you regret?
so, there were like two papers that I didn't finish. So, and like I can't really finish them now, but
Yeah,
not that I need them, but it was just like I should have just
I know.
done like the two more experiments to make it happen, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that really sucked about my experience in grad school was that by the end of it, there were some like things that are happening in my personal life that made me like um kind of develop an unhealthy relationship with drinking, and I was also like smoking cigarettes too. I'm like a completely different person now. Like I barely
Yeah.
drink, I don't smoke, I don't at the time it was a coping mechanism that I like
Right.
needed to like get through it all, and I can't like hate myself too much for that, but
Yeah.
like I wish that looking back at it, like I think I would have been a much better friend, um, if I hadn't had those kinds of issues.
Gotcha. Well, I'm glad you're out of it and way, way out of it. You're on the other side of the spectrum. I'm really proud of you. And um, again, we touched on that earlier that like it's really common for people to get, especially the last year of grad school, like looking for jobs and some, especially international students. I know a lot of talented international students, they have the issue of visa and sponsorship, and that's a totally different story. So they just become vulnerable to drinking, smoking, and other stuff. So
Yeah.
it's sad. So what's we're about to wrap up. What's one advice you would give to people considering graduate school?
Well, I think like the most important thing is to like try to have an open mind,
Mhm.
not just about like the school part of it, but also like the people and, you know, developing friendships or like trying new things, right? So, um, like when I was starting to work with my mentor at UC, Mike Jankowski, like I didn't think what he did was that interesting when I first
Mhm.
like was reading about it because like it was all about the peripheral nervous system and
Mhm.
like I was a brain girl. Like I only cared about the like I'm a
I'm not done down.
neuroscientist.
Yeah,
Like
I'm not.
but then, I met with Mike and he like told me all of these things that just like made my head like literally head exploding emoji, like
Mhm.
I had no idea like so many complex things
Mhm.
were happening there and like the ideas about like muscle pain and inflammation and it's just like I thinking back like to that and like going through my stuff
Mhm.
with like nutrition and fitness now, I'm just always thinking about, well, what does this mean for muscle pain? Like, why
Right.
do I feel this now? Why is this like this? Like, how do I prevent this sensation? Like, I'm a crazy person because of it, but in a good way, in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Awesome.
yeah, keep an open mind. I think that's the biggest thing
Love
because
it. Be flexible and keep an open mind. Jess, I had an amazing time. Pretty much, I'm pretty sure everybody will have an amazing time listening to your story. Amazing story, amazing energy. If people want to reach out to Jessica, where can they find you?
yeah, so I am on Twitter, probably too much.
Hmm.
And also Instagram. My handle on both is Dr. Jess PhD, all one word. And I've spoken a lot about my struggles with like alcohol and ADHD and my fitness stuff on Twitter. So, you know, You don't have to go through these kinds of things alone. It's very likely that someone you know has had these kind of issues, or even if you're having these issues now and you need to talk to someone, DM me, it's fine. Like,
Right.
know that you're
I
supported.
I love that. Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why Sid and I started this initiative to reach out to people. Like, you don't have to struggle alone. We all did it. We all survived. We're not all professors, and it's fine.
Yes,
Still have
you're
balanced.
totally
Yeah,
valid.
yeah. Life is still great. We didn't die. We're fine. Jess,
Yeah,
thank you so
Salma,
much
this
for your
is
time.
amazing. This is
Thanks.
an amazing podcast, and I want to see what else comes out of it, who else you interview, and
They're, yeah, all amazing people like yourself. I'm so excited, really, that we finally got the time to do this together. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing all those personal stuff. And I really, really hope this will reach someone who needs help. Like you said, we're all in this together. Thanks, Jess. I don't know. I
thanks,
think we'll
Salma.
do another episode at some point. That's just the beginning.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll be curious to know how many half marathons would you have done by then? You're
Hella.
killing it. All right, Jess. Have an amazing evening, night, whatever the
Yeah,
time
you
is.
too.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you
Bye.
for coming on our show. All right. Bye. All right, you guys. So as I promised you, I am now with Sid to recap Jessica Ross episode. Sid, what's going on? Hi again.
Um, no, that was a
I
wonderful
had an
conversation.
amazing time with Jess, and she got carried away with all the fitness and CrossFit stuff, and I just let her.
I can tell. I follow Jess on social media, and the amount of cardio that she can do blows my mind. I'm like,
Oh, she's crazy.
anybody that could do so much, anybody that could do proper cardio has my respects. But the kind of fitness that she's into, it deserves a whole new level of respect. So,
Well, she's
and
very,
I think
very
her
knowing.
posts are very inspiring.
Yeah, knowing
Um,
Jessica on a personal level, she is super stubborn. And
yep,
actually, I love what she said about that she's thinking about combining her fitness passion and her neuroscience
and her
passion
degrees.
and
Yep.
getting some sort of innovative fitness part. And I know Jess, like if she puts her mind to something, um,
Mm-hmm.
she does it. So what do you think about her motto? I think that's
No, I think something that she mentioned towards the end of the call kind of stayed with me.
mhm.
I know Jess. I've known her for a while. I The first time I got to know her was when the I think the presidential medal ceremony was happening. She was
Oh
one of the
yeah,
very
yeah, you
first
both were in.
recipients.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I know a little bit about the winner. Anybody that's here, it is a pretty good person on paper. But then after I got to meet her, I'm like, oh, okay, like, Jess is kicking
Oh
ass.
yeah.
And after listening to that conversation, all of that stuff, I didn't know her before personally, surely not as much as you did or you do. But something that she mentioned towards the end of her chat, her call, stayed with me. She said, try to have an open mind. And I think that pretty much sums up her entire grad life, so to speak, and
Mhm.
carries on even now. I think talk about having to withdraw from your graduate program. She moves from one university to the others because of bad treatment. Um, and she's like, okay, so I need to look for new opportunities right off the bat. And then she's told by someone that, you know what, you should probably give that neuro program a shot. She's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but I'll
Mhm.
give it a shot. She had that belief within her. So she gave it a shot only for somebody to, kind of button and be like, dude, no, just like Jessica, ooh.
Yeah.
So somebody tried to muddy the waters.
Yeah.
And then things kind of
That's
worked out.
one thing that I loved when she said prove them wrong. That's why I
Yep.
asked you like what do you think about her motto? So
Yep. And she says, you know what, I'm in. I'm gonna prove them wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes on to get that PhD, and then she has to move
Woo!
halfway across the country, as if getting that PhD was not achievement enough. Now she's going to go do a postdoc, and now
To
all of a
Stanford.
sudden her PI and then the folks at Stanford, all of all the places, and her lab's about to move again halfway across the country in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about. I mean, we back home we call these googlies, but talk about curveballs upon curveballs upon curveballs.
Mm-hmm.
One thing leads to another, and now she's talking about applying her passion along with her degree and doing her own thing and being a proper entrepreneur, being that liaison between the tech side of things and then things on the other side. So I think the fact that she mentioned try to have an open mind, not just with respect to your career, your life, with people and everything. And I think that's a very underrated thing to say and to take in. And it stayed with me more than anything else from that call. And I think as graduate students, we tend to kind of bog
Mm-hmm.
down because we think, oh, my friend in the same program seems to have this kind of a career. I guess that's the right way to do it. So I'll stick to following that same path. And if that doesn't happen, ooh, something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with my career. Something's wrong with what I did or didn't do. Ooh, what's wrong? And then all of a sudden your world kind of collapses for a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. And at that point, you wish you just had that open mind to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her statement pretty much summed it up for me.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you mentioned like entrepreneurship because a lot of people think, like PhDs, like we're worthless, right? There's a lot of us. But you know what, guys? Entrepreneurship is in our blood. We go through a lot. We adjust sail. You really don't know how far you can go until you try, right? Like look at Jess' story, and she's not. I know that she's not stopping, and I know whatever she
Oh,
wants to do,
there's no
she'll do.
stopping
Yeah,
her.
she runs a marathon or half a marathon every other day. She's crazy. So yeah,
Like I
you
said,
guys.
anybody that could do all that while being a postdoc, while wanting to get into entrepreneurship, while leading with a bunch of other things in personal life has mad props. Hats off to Jess.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sweet.
So you two guys, you go out there and prove them wrong. All right. Thanks,
All right,
Sid.
folks. We will talk to you soon with another amazing speaker.
Mhm.
The next speaker, I guess I'll save the story for the next recap. So I guess we'll talk to you all soon.
Yep. See you guys.
See you,
Thanks
folks.
for sticking till the very end. Bye.